All right. What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I am Is There No One Else. In the video I'm bringing you today, we are doing an updated Magicka Templar build for the Harrowstorm DLC. Correction. We are not doing just one build. We are doing two builds. I got two builds for you guys, slightly different for different reasons. You guys can choose your own preferences. I've tried them both. I feel like they both work out very well, but it's a give or take. You know, which one do you prefer more? I'm going to go with the one that I like the most first, and then I will go with the alternative second, and I'll go through other gear options. So, I'm going to dive into the gear, the consumables, all that, and I'm going to explain why I'm going through why I'm using what I'm using as I get to it, so that you guys can kind of have an idea. And I like to try to explain my reasoning, because at least if I explain my reasoning, you know, you guys can see it, and you're like, you know what, I disagree because that's not how I like to play. Cool, you know, but maybe I gave you an idea, and you guys can try something else out on your own build, or maybe you were questioning it, and then I gave you my reasoning, and you're like, actually, that's a really good idea, you know, and you try something that you weren't going to try in the first place. So that's why I go in depth in this. So prepare for a long video. I apologize in advance. So I already gave away the first set. But as far as consumables go, guys, we're running immovable pots, and we're running tripods. And also, depending on the gear layout or the skill layout, we also have these spell power pots. So we get major sorcery, spell crit, and max magicka. It all kind of depends. It depends on how you kind of want to flip your skills. I do think spell power pots are fantastic. Some people can't get by without tripods or immovable pots, and so you're going to have to switch your gear up a little bit to min-max it properly. I do spell power pots, and I get by just fine. But, I mean, that's going to come down to your skill level. It's going to come down to the fights you're involved in. There's a lot of moving parts there to where it just kind of depends. But I do think those are the three best pots for this specific build. We're also running the gold food, Bewitched Sugar Skulls. This just gives you the best bang for your buck. You get a shit ton of max stats, and you get health recovery. We are a vampire, but a little bit of health recovery doesn't hurt anything. Plus, it's just a lot of max stats. Now, I already showed it, but our first set that we're running, guys, is Scathing Mage. Scathing Mage is a fantastic set for Magplar. I'm running 3 jewelry with 2 infused with spell damage, and then I have an arcane with recovery also on my jewelry. So I'll show that here in a minute, but infused with spell damage and 1 arcane with recovery with the greatsword. Now, if you guys have not seen Scathing Mage, here it is. Max Magicka, spell crit. When you deal direct damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your spell damage by 498 for 5 seconds. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. Since it's direct damage, everything on our front bar that we do with this build has a chance to proc Scathing Mage. And now I'm just going to show you with puncturing sweeps, but just about every time I hit with sweeps, which is every individual poke, has a chance to proc Scathing Mage. If I'm hitting 2 people, I'm going to proc Scathing Mage. You see that little purple glow? You know, a little Barney-like glow? Yeah, that's Scathing Mage. And the best part about Scathing Mage is we're only running it on the front bar, but if we switch to our back bar, we get the benefit of having the 500 spell damage for 5 seconds. So we can proc it. See, guys, it's procking every single time it's off cooldown. It is a fantastic set for Magplar. Templars also have 10% crit damage bonus, and so that extra little spell crit you get also adds to your burst. It is a fantastic set. It's definitely worth getting. I'm running a greatsword on the front bar, and the reason I'm running the greatsword, I get this question all the time. You know, why don't you run an Inferno? Why don't you run a Lightning Staff? Why a greatsword? You're a Magicka class. What the fuck are you doing? Well, first of all, guys, I mean, look at this sword. Look at this sword. It's sexy. We are a noble warrior battling in Cyrodiil, and we're bringing a great sword to the battle. We're not bringing some fucking stick, all right? We're bringing a great sword. It's way cooler. In all seriousness, though, the main reason we are bringing a great sword is because due to our skill layout, this 6%, if you run a great sword, it increases your damage done by 6%. This also applies to Magicka abilities. And so we get a flat damage boost across the board for all of our abilities. I'm running some AoE and some single target, and so I can't really just run a Lightning Staff because some of my abilities will not be buffed by a Lightning Staff. I cannot run an Inferno Staff because some of my abilities will not be buffed by an Inferno Staff. And so I went with the middle ground. I went with a Greatsword. Magplars also have the benefit of running Minor Sorcery, increase 10% more spell damage, and so on top of that, a Greatsword buffs our spell damage, And so we just get to min-max that a little bit more. So this buffs everything that I'm running. It just allows me to stack more burst into my specific build. And so that's why I got the Greatsword on the front bar. As far as our back bars weapon goes, we're running the Ice Staff and the Potentates. We got defending with a weapon and spell damage enchant. Now the reason we're running the Ice Staff is, you know, across all builds, I like to run one melee like stamina build weapon and a Magicka weapon. And so I can heavy attack with my Ice Staff and get some Magicka back if I need to. I can also light attack weave on this back bar to build ultimate. I can light attack weave with my front bar to build ultimate as well. And so if I do need stamina, I do have those, you know, added effects. On top of that, because I'm running this Frost Staff on the back bar, it allows me to still run Elemental Drain, which is, you know, Major Fracture. It also gives me more Magicka recovery, you know, via Minor Magicka Steal, which gives me, you know, roughly 600 Magicka recovery if it's proccing off a cooldown. And it allows me to stack more into damage, and I'm going to hit harder and all those other sorts of things. So I got the Frost Staff on the back bar. I got the Greatsword on the front bar. The other, and some people are going to ask this as well. I apologize that I didn't explain this in a minute. Wow, I'm skipping everything. My bad. Some people are going to ask, you know, why the Greatsword? Well, it's like, well, first of all, like I said, it's a Greatsword. Greatswords are awesome. But the two-handed passive for heavy weapons is the exact same as Twin Blade and Blunt. You still get 6% for both. So whether you run dual-wield swords or a Greatsword, you still get the same 6% bonus. However, two-handed has better passives around the board. So you get this follow-up passive. When you deal damage with a fully charged heavy attack, your next direct damage attack used within 7 seconds deals an additional 10% damage. Now, I don't use this a ton, but I do use it sometimes, you know? And so this is better than just Twin Blade and Blunt. On top of that, when I finally get to level 50 for my thing, when I kill somebody, I get 30% more stamina recovery for 10 seconds after I kill a target. So, as we know, you know, it's nice to have extra stamina recovery. So I get the same benefits of running dual-wield swords, plus I get these two passives, which are just, you know, it's just better than nothing. And so, in my opinion, I think Greatsword's better. If you get your hands on dual-wield swords, you'll be fine. You're just missing out on those few passives, but that's why I run the Greatsword and not dual-wield. Yeah. As far as the Frost Staff, you know, like I said, LE Drain, and it also functions similarly to Sword and Board. So as you guys know, if we look at our Destruction Staff, if we get rid of Trifocus, and we go look at Frost Staff, well, a Frost Staff is good. Blocking costs magic instead of stamina. Frost Staffs function very similar to Sword and Shield. We can't block as much damage, and we don't have reduced stamina costs in the same way Sword and Shield does. We're built more for damage with this build than anything. So that's why I went the Frost Staff. If you want to run Sword and Board, you absolutely can, but you're going to miss out on LE Drain, and you might have to build in a little bit more recovery. Those sorts of things. As far as the monster set, we're going Bloodspawn. We are very glass cannon, so having the little added resistances plus the stamina recovery plus the ulti-gen is very nice. You could run 2 resistance 1 pieces just for the flat resistance values. I honestly go back and forth between the two. I think they're both very viable options. If you want that resistance all the time just so you're a little bit more tanky and somebody doesn't sneak in just like a fat snipe when your Bloodspawn goes down, I totally get it. I totally get it. I like Bloodspawn a little bit more, but, you know, sometimes you gotta value staying alive over having ulti-gen, you know. Ulti-gen doesn't mean shit if you're dead. So either one of those work just fine. And then finally, on the body, we are running New Moon Acolyte. So we got, if you guys haven't seen New Moon Acolyte, here it is. Weapon and spell crit, weapon and spell damage, physical and spell pen, 464 weapon and spell damage at the cost of increasing your active abilities by 5%. This is on both bars to increase our healing. We are a Breton. We do have reduced cost via the light armor passives. And I am running 1 recovery glyph. Like I said, 1 arcane recovery glyph, 2 infused with spell damage, and then I got prismatic big pieces, arcane small pieces. If you guys don't like New Moon because you don't feel like you can sustain well, you can run Crafty Elfique. The Crafty Elfique is what I was running here last time. I think Crafty Elfique is fantastic. I do think New Moon Acolyte is a little bit better. We get the pen bonus. If you count up the, you know, Crafty Elfique is what, like 2,500 Magicka and then 3 stacks of 1,000 Magicka. So it's like 5,500 Magicka, which is roughly 540-ish spell damage. We get more spell damage with this set than we do with Crafty. And yes, we do have to run a recovery enchant, but we also have the pen that we get with this. We also get the weapon crit and spell crit, which comes in handy. And we also have minor sorcery. So this is going to scale higher than Crafty Elfique, in my opinion. If you guys disagree, that's fine. Run Crafty Elfique. You know, it's not a big deal. You're not going to miss out on a ton, but that's why I went with New Moon, and that's why I went with Scathing Mage. As far as our character sheet goes, these are unbuffed stats, guys. We have 32k max Magicka, 19k health, which is 25k in PvP. Stamina is just under 17,000. 743 stamina recovery, 1461 magic recovery. Keep in mind, guys, we also have minor Magicka Steel on our back bar, and so that's, you know, anywhere from 400 to 600 more Magicka. We also are running a rune, which is 480 Magicka recovery, and we also did not take a pot. So if we take our pot, with just the pot, we're at 3,500 spell damage and 1665 recovery. So we actually have pretty good sustain. Our spell resistance on our front bar jumps up to 30,000, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 30,000 spell, 23,000 physical. Keep in mind, we also have minor protection every time we hit with our sweeps. As far as our overall damage goes, light attack, block this, proc Scathing Mage, 4893. So fully buffed, without continuous attack, we are just under 5,000 spell damage with this build, guys. 4893 spell damage. With a continuous attack, we jump up to 5,500 spell damage. We hit very hard. On top of that, guys, we have 50% spell crit. So we have 50% spell crit with just about almost 5,000 spell damage before continuous. This is one of the hardest hitting builds that I have run. And like I showed you, Scathing Mage procs like just about every time I hit sweeps when it's, you know, not functioning or when it's off a cooldown. So very, very reliable, very effective set. So I think that's all I need to say. Atronach Mundstone, Stage 4 Vampire, Bewitched Sugar Skulls, all those good things. On our front bar, our skill layout: Puncturing Sweeps, Toppling Charge, Purifying Light, Radiant Oppression, Dark Flare, Crescent Sweep. Back bar, Temporal Guard. This gives us our minor protection. Some people are going to say, hey, you know, why are you running this? You get minor protection when you hit your sweeps, and that's 100% true. Sometimes you have to misform a few times, and I just want to make sure I have the minor protection up on that bar when I have to come out blocking. It's just a little bit more sustained. I don't feel like I need another damage ultimate because Crescent just hits so hard. I have so much damage. I just want to make sure I can survive when I'm on my back bar. So I run Temporal Guard just to guarantee that minor protection. Ellie Drain. You know, like I said, minor Magicka Steel plus Major Breach. Channeled Focus, Major Resolve, Major Ward plus, you know, Magicka Recovery. Elusive Mist. I do think Elusive Mist in general is better than Race Against Time. I've talked about it in the past, but if you try to run Race Against Time, especially in open world, this is my biggest issue with it. And I'll make sure I have skill points. But if we run Race Against Time gives Major Expedition. It also gives Minor Force, which would be fantastic on a magplar. But like, let's say there's like 6 people focusing me, right? And I'm in the middle of a field, just like this, and I need to get somewhere in order to fight them to where I can kind of line of sight a little bit. If I go like this and I start trying to heal, I'm going to take a shit ton of damage. And so all of a sudden I have to block. And so I have Major Expedition, but the minute I block, I don't have Major Expedition anymore. And so that's why I don't think it's as great. Like, if I could run Harness Magicka, and Harness Magicka like protected me enough to where I could run both of those, that'd be fantastic. But Elusive Mist just gives me a crazy amount of damage mitigation, and I get Major Expedition. So if 5 or 6 people jump on me, I can block, I go to Misform, I can get to my spot without wasting as many resources, and then that allows me to go on the offensive. I do think Race is a good skill. I just don't think it's as good outnumbered, like severely outnumbered in open world PvP anymore. For how I play. So take it for what it is, but that's just my opinion. Honor the Dead. I think Honor the Dead is a better morph when you're solo. Healing anyone who's below 75% health restores 60% of the ability's cost over 6 seconds as Magicka. It's a huge reduced cost ability. Heals for a lot. You see 10,000. Fully buffed, this is about a 16,000 tooltip. I want to say it's like 15,900 or something when I was looking on the editor. We have crazy amounts of healing with this build because we have so much spell damage. And Extended Ritual. You know, this is our Purify, removes 5 negative effects. Huge area. Anybody that's standing in here gets a heal. I've talked a lot about the skill. It's definitely worth running in your bar. It's a fantastic skill. So, quickly dive through the CP, and then we'll go through, you know, why I have the layout that I have. But 1 into Siphoner, 61 Warlord, 23 into Mooncalf, 65 Arcanist, 43 into Tenacity, 11 Tumbling, occasionally we're in a dodge roll, 66 into Shadow Ward for the block cost, 64 Ellie Expert, 57 Spell Erosion, 67 into Elfborn, 82 into Master at Arms, none into Thaumaturge because we are running 0 dots. Dots just aren't very effective this patch, so we're just all stacking into direct damage. 72 Ironclad, 16 into Resistant, 76 Hardy, 56 Ellie Defender, 6 into Thick Skinned, and none over here. Now, before I go through the skills and why I'm running what I'm running, some people have asked me this in the past as well, and they've said, hey, why don't you put points in here for the Exploiter? You do get 10% more damage against off-balance enemies. I did a test with the Exploiter passive and without the Exploiter passive. And what I had found is the CP that we would have to allot here, which is 75 for this 10%, if we put it into our direct damage abilities, we get more damage doing this than using the Exploiter passive. And so I have to take these points out of somewhere. So whether I take them out of Spell Erosion or Elfborn or Master at Arms or whatever, I still have to put 75 points into here. I'm going to lose damage somewhere. And because I'm losing that damage, it doesn't give me as much damage as how I have it currently set up. And I can provide a link in the description for that test if you guys want to see it, but that's why I have this laid out the way I have it laid out. Off balance just isn't effective on Magplar, even though we do have off balance with our top link charge. So that's the gear, that's the consumables, that's the character sheet, that's the champion points. Now you're going to ask, okay, else, why are you running this specific layout? And the thing is, guys, metas change. You know, there was a point in time where I was running a lightning staff. You know, I was running dual wield swords like 4 years ago. I switched to a lightning staff for the light attack weaving, proccing a few more, a little bit more ulti-gen, a little bit more magic sustain. This patch and in Dragonhold, healing is at an all-time high. I've talked about extended ritual and how much extended ritual gives you. I showed you my tooltip on my Breath of Life, on my Honor of the Dead. Like I said, it's like just under 16,000. You know, everybody has really high healing right now. And so I've also posted a build showing how dots, you know, with this type of build, if somebody stacks all into dots like on a Stam DK and they're running Morag Tongue and Deadly and they hit with me with 3 dots, my extended ritual alone will heal 3 dots by itself. I don't have to purify it. I just know that my extended ritual will basically offset 3 damage over time effects, even fully stacked into damage from a dot build in this patch. And so it's not useful if you're fighting outnumbered. If you're fighting like 5 or 6 people, you're probably going to have 1 or 2 magplars. They're probably going to have 1 or 2 extended rituals on the ground, and all of your damage over time effects are going to be completely wasted. They're just going to heal through it passively. So why run damage over time effects? There's no point, in my opinion. So what we're going to do is we're going to amplify our burst, and our entire goal is to land with as much burst as quickly as possible to completely nuke somebody's health bar. And so our skill layout will be like this. You know, we'll pop our pot, and then we'll hit with our Ellie Drain. We'll weapon swap. We'll hit with our Purifying Light because we wanted this to store damage. We'll go into our Dark Flare. And so our Dark Flare does a shit ton of damage. I want to say it fully buffed. It has like an 18k tooltip. It's a crazy amount of damage, guys. So we'll buff up. We'll hit with our Dark Flare. But the other part about Dark Flare, guys, is because it's a slow travel time, it lands the same time as our top charge. You see there? Both those abilities hit at the same time. I also proc Scathing Mage off there. But we can land a very hard-hitting Dark Flare with another ability that gives us a CC. And so I have nuked people with 35k plus health with this specific layout. So I hit with my Purifying Light, I go in with this, I go in with the top one charge, they're CC'd on the ground. If I have an ultimate, I can crack the ultimate. If I don't have an ultimate, I can hit sweeps, and I can just do a ton of damage. Now they're on the ground, they're CC'd, they've taken a Dark Flare, they've taken a topple, and now they're going to at least take 1 set of sweeps, and they still have to deal with Purifying Light Burst. If the Dark Flare also lands, it gives Major Defile. And so not only does it do a bunch of damage, but it also reduces their healing received and their health recovery by 30% for 6 seconds to everybody within 8 meters of that person. So not only are we ensuring a shit ton of burst, but if they somehow get up and they survive, they're now trying to heal and survive, and like it's just going to put them on the defensive, and they're going to have a very, very hard time recovering for that reason. And so this is a tremendous burst combination. This is one of the hardest hitting burst combinations that I have run in this patch. And so people have a hard time recovering from it. Now, the tips and tricks that I can give for you this, guys, is you can't use this ability on everybody. You can't. You know, you really have to know who you're going to try and use it on. We hit hard enough to where we don't necessarily need Dark Flare. You know, like we could toppling charge in with Purifying Light and Sweeps and Crescent. We're going to kill a lot of people with just that as it is. You know, I've killed multiple people because we hit so hard. But for the tankier individuals, the tanky healers, you're really going to want Dark Flare. And the tips I can give you for Dark Flare is you have to know who you're fighting. You know, you have to know, like if you see a Sork and they're hitting you with Force Pulse or Crushing Shock and you don't know what it is, you might not want to throw a Dark Flare out, you know, because if it's Crushing Shock, they're going to interrupt you and they're going to set you off balance. So you're not going to want to run it against a Sork. If you see a bow class, you know, and like they're hitting you with poison injections from range, that might be Venom Arrow. So you might want to be a little careful when you do that, when you hit them as well. But the minute you see them switch to a 2H bar, you can then go on the offensive, or if they're not using those sorts of things, you know if you're at range, you can land this pretty much at will. And so most players will not survive if you hit with the Dark Flare and you CC them with top of the shot. They're just not going to survive that. Like, it's just so much damage at first. I have hit 11k Dark Flares in no CP. In no CP, I've hit 11k Dark Flares in this build. It hits very, very hard. And it's very effective. Now, Radiant Oppression is very similar to Dark Flare. Look at that tooltip, 9126 magic damage or 1.8 seconds with a 480% scaling. Now, Dark Flare and Radiant are kind of in the same boat. You know, you don't have to run Radiant if you wanted to run Inner Light. I would run Camo Hunter here before Inner Light, but that's up to you if you don't want to run Radiant. The reason I run Radiant, guys, is there are a few specific classes that, yeah, I'll go through the scenario for you, but you light attack, you hit your LA Drain, you go like this, you hit your Dark Flare, and you toppling charge in, right? Now they're taking a bunch of damage, and you go to finish them. They get up, and they're a bow class, and they dodge roll, and they start sprinting, right? And so they're sprinting, and they get out of the range of your sweeps. And so now you're trying to finish them off. And so you go to topple again, and they're dodging. And so your topple misses because they dodged, and it's single target. You go to topple again, they dodge again, and it misses. And now they've had like 4 ticks of vigor on them, and they're fully recovered, and they're back to full health. And you can't finish those players with the abilities that you have because they're just a little too fast, and we're slow, clunky Magplar. So, against bow abilities, when I do connect part of my burst and I know that they're around half health, when they CC break and they try to dodge roll and get away, I zap them with Radiant. And they can't dodge roll Radiant. You know, so the minute they try to heal, they have Defile on them, they have the Explosion from Purifying Light coming up, and now they have the Execute, and more often than not, they don't survive that. And so, I don't use Radiant on everybody. You know, it is a channel, once again, you can get interrupted. Against healers, which this sounds crazy, but against some healers, when I have them on the ground, I just stick to sweeping. I just keep sweeping, and I keep sweeping, and I keep pushing out damage. You don't really want to go into the channel for Radiant against like a healer, a very tanky individual, as ridiculous as that sounds. I just use Radiant for the people trying to get away. And a lot of people are very mobile, and it really helps to just zap them really quick. And so that's why I run Radiant. Like I said, if you don't want to run Radiant, you don't have to. You know, you can run Inner Light, you can run Camo Hunter. Camo Hunter, like I said, would be actually pretty effective for the minor Berserk buff. Yeah. So, what else? So yeah, so don't use Dark Flare against specific builds. That's just going to come with practice, you know. At some point, you're going to get interrupted, and you're going to get slapped, and you're going to be like, oh, well, that's what he's talking about. Yeah. Now, in my opinion, I do think that this build is tanky enough. If we look at our back bar, you know, we have 28k spell and 21k physical, 34k spell with Bloodspawn, 27k physical, plus we have Potentates, plus we have Undo in our back bar. With these resistances, we're actually not as squishy as you'd think. Plus, with our spell damage with a potential 16k Breath of Light or Honor the Dead, our healing is crazy high. We have such good healing with this build, and so that's why I'm saying that we're not you know, super squishy. Now, if the game's not functioning properly, if you're fighting a bunch of people and you just don't think that, or, you know, if you don't think that you can pull off a build this squishy, or it's just not in your personal preferences, that's fine. I have an alternative for you. What I would run, if you don't want to run this layout, is I would go get yourself a set of Rattle Cage. And I ran this as well, and I think this is good, and I'll go through the pros and cons of both. But infused spell damage, I would run infused spell damage on all of it, to be honest, with Rattle Cage. So let me put this on really quickly, and then I would also run Cyrodiil's Light on your front bar. And so let me put this all on really quickly. There we go. So this is going to, instead of being a 5-1-1 setup, this is now a 5-2. I'm not running my Cyrodiil's Light Greatsword. Hold on. Hold on. There we go. So the reason we switched to this is because instead of running spell power pots like what I'm running with Scathing Mage, also, you know, if you don't want to run Radiant, you could also fit Entropy there as well. You know, then you don't have to run spell power pots in my other build. I've done that as well. It's also effective. It's up to you, you know, and how comfortable you are with this, your sustain. But if you want to be a little bit tankier, I think Rattle Cage is a solid option. If you guys don't know what Rattle Cage is, it's an older set, but max health, spell damage, 5 pieces spell damage, and then you gain major sorcery at all times, increasing your spell damage by 20%. Why is my Rattle Cage not on? Oh, my bad. There we go. So you get major sorcery while wearing this all the time. And so then you don't have to run spell power pots and you'll have to run entropy. You can fit another skill on your bar. So it's not as much damage as Scathing Mage. It's not as much damage as New Moon. That's a sacrifice you have to give, but you get a little bit more utility. And Cyrodiil's Light is spell damage, max magicka, and then 5-piece. While you are casting or channeling an ability, your damage taken is reduced by 15%. When you're interrupted, your next magicka ability will cost no magicka. So when I use a channeled ability, like Radiant, like Dark Flare, you know, cast time or channel ability, or like Sweeps, I have 15% more damage mitigation wearing Cyrodiil's Light. Now, I'm not running as much damage, you know, like, let me look at this really quick. I can't remember. 4,100 spell damage. So instead of 5k, we're at 4,100. We lost almost 1,000 spell damage off this build. We gained about 2,000 magicka. So we lost about 800 spell damage, not counting continuous attack or anything like that. So we do not hit as hard. We also lost about 11% crit. And so our burst isn't going to be as high. But if you want that little bit of extra thickness, or if you're worried about getting caught accidentally sometimes in your Dark Flare and somebody interrupts you, you're going to take a lot less damage in this Dark Flare, which will allow you to, you know, continue to finish your kill. Or if you get interrupted, like somebody hits you with a Crushing Shock, your next cast of your ability, like your next casted ability, is free. And so you can go to your back bar and you can hit your breath, and you know it should cost no magic. I can't remember. I'm almost certain this transfers over to the other bar. I could be wrong with that. I'll actually have to test that to confirm. So maybe, I'm sorry, I know I ran this in the past. I just can't remember if I only ran it on the front bar or not. So I can't remember how the interrupt works, if it transfers over to your back bar. If you guys know, that would be useful. But regardless, even if your next ability doesn't cost any magicka, the 15% damage mitigation is quite noticeable. And so because we're running so many channeled abilities on our front bar, and when we go into our sweeps, we're just going to be so much bigger. And it's going to allow like our sweeps to heal us a lot better because we're just taking so much less damage. This is definitely a viable alternative. It's not what I normally like to run because I like to hit harder. You know, the more damage you have this patch, the more people are in your kill range. I like to be able to kill people. And this patch, a lot of people are very, very tanky and very tough to kill. That's why I opt for the New Moon and Scathing Mage setup, because I have so much crit, I have so much spell damage, and my burst combination is fantastic. So those are the build layouts that I would give you guys. I highly recommend switching from Reflective Light to like something like Dark Flare. You know, I know Dark Flare is not useful all the time, but Dark Flare is more useful than Reflective Light is, in my opinion. You know, like dots are just not very good. And, you know, you're going to say, oh, well, it gives me a snare. Well, your sweep also gives me a snare. You know, like how many snares do you need as a magplar? You know, one's good enough, all right? Trust me on this. So I opt for the Dark Flare for the burst damage and the defile, and sometimes you're just going to mix and match on who you fight. You really need to be able to identify who you're fighting right away in order to pull it off. But yeah, that's my build. That's what I'm running. If you guys have any questions or comments, please provide it in the section below. I will post a couple of videos, and I'll kind of go through, we'll go through some Battlegrounds matches, and I can kind of show you how the build functions. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. So let's get to the clips. All right, guys, so here's a few BGs from a couple days ago. These are from my Twitch stream. I'm going to mute the sound because it's going to be me talking in the background, and it's going to confuse some things. I wanted to do the play-by-play and kind of talk about why I'm choosing the combinations I'm choosing when it happens. So hopefully I can kind of show you what I'm talking about when I have my Dark Flare. So I do wish I could do these sorts of fights in open world PvP a little bit more, but you know, as you guys know, open world PvP just doesn't want to function right now, and I'm not going to beat my head against the wall doing that. But I've run a build very similarly to this in open world PvP, and it's been more than fine. And instead of running Scathing Mage, I was running Crafty Alfiq, and you know, it's very, very effective. Survivability is great outside of right there where I just got shit on by a leap. But yeah, like I was at full. It looked like I was at full health, and I just dropped over, and the leap only hit me for like 5k. So I'm not sure if that was a desync or not, but I took a bunch of damage. Anyways, I'm just going to spawn back. This is my first fight on my, when I was streaming on Twitch on my magplar, because I had been doing magblade all day. You see the Dark Flare into the topple, into the crescent. That guy just got nuked before the power of the light went off. So, or purifying light. So that I try to hit the Sork. He does a really good job of getting away. Does a really good job of streaking away once again. Hits me with a very nice combination here, so I'm just going to block, get a couple breaths up. I got some teammates, and he doesn't, and, that's just what happens when you have a few teammates. So get the kill there. We got another Stamp Sork coming in. I go for the Dark Flare. I get leapt on. This time I do not get desynced, so I get a heal back up. Put my Extended Ritual down, put my heals back up. Now I'm going to go with the Dark Flare into the topple. The Dark Flare misses, and so we don't get all the burst, but he's going to take a bunch of damage anyway, so we get the Radiant. We get another quick kill there. Like I said, this is my first time running this. You're going to see my sustain is going to be a little wonky, and so I wanted to show that. We go in here with the topic charge. You see the Sork. You see the Sork here. I'm not sure exactly what his spammable is, or if he's running a spammable, so I got to be a little bit careful. I'm going to back off to the side. You see I'm also running my spell power pots. You see my stamina sustain is very good. It's going to be even better with the 2H passives, just rattling off kills. I help get the kill there. We got a few people over here, and so I go in with the Crescent. We get 2 quick kills there, but none of them are mine, sad face. And now we're just going to keep bouncing around. There's my pot. And so I'm going to hit this guy with an Ellie Drain, Purifying Light. He's trying to run away. I'm going to go back with my team, because I'm a team player. I want to make sure I can help out. So we're going to hit this guy with Ellie Drain, Purifying Light, Dark Flare. He's not focusing us. You see we drop like 40% of his health bar. We're going to hit with a couple sweeps before he could get away. He was at that threshold to where I wasn't sure if Radiant would kill him, so I just hit him with sweeps instead, and he died. That's one of those spots where you're just going to have to kind of know. Like you could hit Radiant there, and it's probably not going to work. You see that? We drop him to half health. I get the sweeps in. We just kill him while he's on the ground before he can CC break. It's just so much burst. If that Dark Flare plus topple lands, they're dead. Like, more often than not, they're dead. This guy's trying to recover right now. You see I went for the Radiant there, and that Sork is running Crushing Shock. So now I take a mental note, like, hey, I got to be careful with my channels with the Sork around. Got to make sure that, I don't go into them while he's there, because he's going to interrupt me, and he's going to hit me with a fat frag that's going to just delete my health bar. So I got to be very careful here. We see a guy at low health. And you see my sustain's just a little off. This is when I was running all 3 spell damage enchants, and so my sustain isn't the way it is on my current build. So I hit a little bit harder here than what you will have with my current build setup, but I can actually fully sustain. And I like to be able to build for fully outnumbered PvP, and it just wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be with New Moon Acolyte. So I added the recovery enchant, which made it a lot better. Now this guy jumped in, and so now we're just gonna hit him. See the 7k tick on the Radiant. Sorry, no shelter, but yeah, that's one of those, like, if he tries to dodge roll away and he tries to get the distance, we can just hit him with a Radiant, and it's if it crits, it's going to melt. This is another. I'm sorry, I got to talk about it a little bit, but my streams have been so much fun. Like it's been so much fun because I'll hop on and I'll stream, and people will be like, hey, are you on Xbox? Are you on PC? And every time I say I'm on Xbox, like everybody just kind of queues up the same time I do, and everybody's pretty cool about it. Like we all just hop in and we just beat each other's heads in. You know, so win or lose, we have a good time. You know, like no shelters in my Discord. LZ, I've talked to a few times. I know LZ follow. You know, I talked to him or her on YouTube. There's a few people in here that, you know, like I got to a point to where each game had 4 or 5 people in chat, and that's a lot of fun. To me, that's a lot of fun because like every time you're in a game, you know somebody, and you know you want to make sure they don't kill you or whatever, or like they'll focus you super hard, and you know that's the best part about PvP, guys. Like there's no salty like, oh you fucking piece of shit. Like it's just everybody's just PvPing. It's like sometimes I lose, sometimes I don't have great teammates, or I'm not playing well, or whatever, or they play better, and it's like, yeah, good game, you know. And then we move on to the next one. They queue up, and we do it all over again. So. That'll be my one thing, but like I really do enjoy streaming, and so I'm having a lot of fun doing that, just doing BGs with you guys and, you know, queuing in, and it's not what I normally do, and I think that's why I'm enjoying it so much. You know, normally I get more involved in like open world PvP, and you know, because it's not functioning, I just do some laid back battleground. So you see here, you know, I go in on the Sork. We got a few guys crushing shock in the back, and if I use Dark Flare, you see at that point I didn't use Dark Flare in that spot because we had more teammates. I wanted to try and sneak the kills, and with the Sork potentially hitting me with Crushing Shock, I didn't want to get interrupted. So I can toppling charge in, knock that guy down, hit him with a ton of damage, and yeah, this first match, you know, we do very well. My teammates are really good. We see the green team go over here to the right, so we're just going to go try and focus them. This guy's going to try and like attack us from range, and I'm just going to hit him with a Radiant with a Dark Flare, and he's going to die. You know, double Radiance is just actually pretty nasty. So, yeah. As I said, guys, like typically what I run in BGs is what I run in open world. I will at some point run more optimized Battlegrounds builds, but this is what I would wear to 1vx, 2vx, 3vx with. Like it does a bunch of damage. It's a ton of pressure. You know, if our sweeps and our top one, our Dark Flare don't kill them, we have our Purifying Light that's going to explode, and then we also have our Radiant, and then they're also defiled. So we go in, you see the Dark Flare plus a topple. They drop to half health, but DK healing is very nice. We get jumped on here, so we're just going to drop down or hit a Breath of Life. We get the Atronox, so we're going to back up just a little bit. You see we have a Grothar on us, so we're on top of charge in. Crescent, almost dead, plus a Radiant with Purifying Light. They die. We got 2 people here, and now we're just trying to figure out which target we're going to focus. Our teammates focus that guy, so I try to focus the purple. This guy's going to come in and hit a Soul Tether in the middle of my Dark Flare, so it interrupts me. So we get the kill there. Just a 9-1. You know, not a great game by any means. You know, I just first game, like I'd finally gotten all my Scathing Mage pieces. It took me a lot of gold to get. I wanted to run Scathing Mage because I think it's actually a really good damage set this patch. You know, how it procs, its proc condition, its uptime, like it's a very, very good set. I definitely think it's worth going out to get, in my opinion. So this match, you know, once again, we're in a different area. Hit this guy with the Dark Flare. He just dodges our topple. We're going to topple again. Hit him with Crescent. We get the kill there. We got a DK coming in behind us, so we're going to hit him with the Elydrin. Hit him with a couple sweeps. Instead of going for the toppling charges at half health, we're just going to hit him with a few sweeps and just finish him off. This guy's like, they're trying to attack him. He's trying to run away, so I'm just going to zap him with a Radiant really quick. You see I get hit with the sub there, so I'm just going to block cast Breath of Life. I get hit with an Incap. I'm going to back up once again. Hit that guy with an Elydrin. Now I'm just trying to figure out which target is kind of off to the side. I really hate trying to like hit a pile of people and try and land one Dark Flare and a toppling charge combination. It's tough to land. That guy's a Nightblade, so he's going to be tough to kill. And now we got a Zoosork as well, and you know sometimes we're going to Dark Flare their pet, and you know that doesn't freaking mean anything. So now this guy's at half health. We're going to toppling charge in, Crescent Sweep. We get another quick kill. This guy's almost dead, so we're going to hit him with an Ellie Drain, but we get stunned. One of our teammates has Bombard, so we're going to toppling charge in. We're going to take a bunch of damage here, so we're just going to block cast. We're going to heal back up to full. It's my buddy Cheese. He waits until the big piles come in with his ultimate, and he runs a very high damage Stamina Warden, and it hits really hard. It's really good for Battlegrounds for taking out these piles. And so every once in a while you'll get caught, you know, with a build like this against a build like that. You know, we're a vampire. If he's running Dawnbreaker, it's going to do increased damage, and you know when he's running Glass Cannon and you're running Glass Cannon, you know somebody's going to die. So. At this point, this guy's kind of off by himself, so I'm going to go with the Dark Flare, toppling charge to see all that health just disappear. He's going offensive instead of healing up. That Purifying Light ticks, he dies. We got a few people behind us. I go in for a few sweeps to try and heal up. Sweeps do damage and they heal me. I don't really know what happened there. I thought I was blocking, but I took a bunch of damage that I didn't really see. I died. It is what it is. We'll respawn and we'll do it all over again. So just me looking at the death recap. You know, sometimes like this game's just a little weird. You know, I get hit by stuff or I die and my death recap shows stuff that I didn't see. And I still didn't see it. Like it happened the first time and I was confused at what I got hit by, and I looked at it again and I still didn't see it. So it is what it is. We'll move on to the next part of the fight. You see that guy at low health, so we're just going to hit him with a Dark Flare. Go with the topple for the CC. Crescent with a bunch of people. We get the double kill. No, actually one person stole one. We almost got the double kill. So this guy's going in, so we're in a Dark Flare. Topple. You see all his health bar just disappear. We get a couple kills there. One was our kill, and the other person just jumped into our sweeps to try and get away from our teammates. Once again, I did see that one. So Cheese did hit me with a really nice Dawnbreaker there with the sub. A bunch of burst damage as I was trying to focus somebody else. I didn't see him off to the side. So we're just going to spawn back and do it all over again. So this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Like if you guys don't feel like, you know, this is your type of build, you know, if you don't want to hit this hard and you feel like it's a little bit too squishy for you and people are going to focus you a little bit too much, I totally get it. You know, I do think you can survive with this as long as you're aware of your surroundings. This was my second BG match with this build, and so like I got a little bit of a tunnel vision just trying to like focus on my combinations. But in general, I do think you can survive. I do think the healing's fantastic. I think the survivability is good enough, but that's why I provided the other option. That's why I provided that Cyrodiil's Light build. If I go offensive there and Cheese hits me with his combination, I probably don't die. You know, that 15% damage mitigation while I'm in a Dark Flare with the Dawnbreaker and the sub, you know, that chops a bunch of damage off my front bar. And so those little things do add up. And so if you want that little bit of extra survivability, you're still going to be able to kill people. But, you know, like I said, I hate going into open world PvP and finding people I can't kill. You know, like anytime I find somebody I can't kill, I just get annoyed. And I'd rather do damage and I'd rather do damage and take a little bit more damage than get in a hand-holding event. And so that's why I built this the way I built it. You know, as long as I see what's coming and I can block and I can react and I can recover, this build will work fine. But, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea, so I wanted to kind of explain that. So this guy's at half health. He's focusing on our teammates. We're at a Dark Flare. We're going to come in with the topple. We don't get the CC, but he's got the Purifying Light on him, and we hit him with a few sets of sweeps, so he's going to die. And the other reason I'm not recovering super well is I'm also just, you know, like I said, I got 3 recovery enchants. My sustain isn't exactly where I wanted it. I was trying to hit this guy. I missed him with my Dark Flare. You saw it hit his pet, and I still almost kill him, and then our friend comes in here and hits him with an execute. But I did the vast majority of the damage, even without Dark Flare. And so that's the point I was trying to make with my initial comments on this build is you don't necessarily need to hit Dark Flare. I just top-line charge in on the Sork. I go for the Purifying Light. You see he takes a bunch of damage. 8k Crescent in BGs. Very, very hard hitting. So we're just going to hit this guy with Purifying Light. It's a Nightblade. So we're just going to keep with our sweep so he can't kite away. They steal the kill there. So we're going to hit this guy with Ellie Drain. We're going to hit him with a Purifying Light. Hit him with a few sweeps. Just because he's a sword and board build, I was right next to him, and I didn't want him to just bash me out of it, you know, kind of like that. So that's why I hit him with a few sweeps, and I tried to go for the finisher there. This guy's almost dead. We're going to top-line charge in for the stun. We're going to hit with the Crescent. Another Radiant from our teammate. Kind of drops him over. And so now we're going to pop our pot. We're going to come back up. We're going to hit this guy with Ellie Drain. He dies from, you know, our teammates. This guy's almost dead. We're no top-line charge this time, or no Dark Flare this time. We're just going to go in. I couldn't break this right away. You know, I was at full resources. A little annoying, but you see now my resources are just completely sauced. Like, I just didn't like my sustain where this was at. Another 7k Crescent. He's got Purifying Light. He takes a bunch of damage from the Purifying Light proc. He's dead. And now this is a bad spot to be at because we got people behind us now. This is where they spawn at. And so we see him by himself. And so I'm going to go in with the Dark Flare, which I shouldn't versus Sork. We hit him with a 9k Crescent. I'm just going to keep with the sweeps just to get the kill. My sweeps are going to heal me up enough. I wasn't too concerned about his damage, to be honest. My recovery is just a little too low. I don't want to keep fighting at the spawn, so I'm going to line of sight right here behind this pillar and do a heavy attack with an Ellie Drain. Hit with a Purifying Light. I'm going to go with the Dark Flare. I'm trying to get the guy in the back because he was running rapid regen. You see I hit him with the Purifying Light. He's going to take a bunch of damage from my Crescent, and I get hit with a sub Donnie once again, just got a little too sweaty there, and I thought I had the 2 people, and then the other person comes in and finishes me off. But overall, you know, like I said, a bunch of damage, a lot of pressure. You know, you provide added effects in BGs by providing Major Defile. Major Defile isn't as useful, I don't think, in CP, but in no CP, it's actually very effective. And it's not just to the person you hit, it's everybody within 8 meters. So, see, this person's kind of by himself, so I'm trying to target, toppling charge. See, he takes a bunch of damage. He ends up blocking it, or he's got CC immunity. So I end up blocking this. I tried to hit back bar and hit breath, but I ended up toppling charging anyways. I get my 2-hander to 48, but I go 19-4. So overall, pretty good game. That's how the build functions, guys. It does have very high healing. It's not as tanky as some builds, but if you want the major damage, you got to sacrifice something. So if you guys think you can pull this off, I do recommend running New Moon and Scathing with how I have it set up. I do think that's the best way to do it. If you want to be a little bit tankier to where, you know, you're not blindsided by a snipe or something when you're in a channel, I do think Cyrodiil's light front bar is a very viable option. So Cyrodiil's light's very cheap. It's easy to get. But yeah, that's the end of this video. If you guys have any other questions or comments, please let me know. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.